Good afternoon, Math 20-3. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope that the first assignment seemed relatively easy, looking at trying to find a bank account, how it works best for you investing and keeping your money. Shouldn't have been too hard, and hopefully the quiz was pretty easy too. We're going to move on to section 6.2, which is compound and simple interest. Okay. Now, there are some key things to remember here, so we're going to go through them. As well, the initial calculations involved in simple interest. So, taking a look as my background here loads, I'm going to take some coffee. Okay. So, in simple interest, there's a few things you need to remember. There's a formula. The formula is I equals P times R times T. I is the interest that you're going to get, the amount of money at the end of the term that you're going to make if you're investing money. If you're borrowing money, the total amount of money that you're going to owe, including the principal, or total amount of interest you're going to owe at the end of the term. P stands for the principal. Principal is the initial amount, whether you're investing or whether you're borrowing. If I'm borrowing $10,000 for a car, that's my principal. If I'm investing $10,000, that's also my principal. R is the rate. This is set by banks, global bank account, whatever it works, but this is the interest rate. It's given as a percentage, but when you do your calculations, you have to turn it into a decimal, which means just divide it by 100. T stands for the time or term, the length at which the money is invested or interest is calculated. Now, adding to that is trying to calculate the final amount. Now, the final amount is calculated here, which is A equals P plus I. A is the total amount of money. P is your principal amount, either amount you invested or borrowed. I is the interest earned after the term, right? And that's what it kind of says there. So if you take it over the actual example, I'm going to move myself back to the other side. Okay. Let's say you invest $5,000 at 3% interest for 2 years. There's the formula. I equals P times R times T. I is what we're trying to figure out. P, the principal, $5,000. R is the rate, 3%. We divide that by 100, that's decimal 3. And it's for 2 full years, which is right here. So we plug that in. I equals PRT. I equals 5,000 times decimal 0.03 times 2. I equals 5,000 times 0.06. That's this times this. And finally, that means your interest after the 2 years is $300. Okay. Now, using the last formula, the total amount of what your money is now worth is A equals the principal plus the interest earned. So we need to figure out the A. Principal we know was $5,000. It's right here. Interest we earned based on the interest rate and the time was $300. So it's A equals 5,000 plus 300. A equals $5,300 or 5,300. So therefore, at the end of the 2-year term, the $5,000 investment will now be worth $5,300. Okay. Looking at another example, now what if we invest that $5,000 at 3.75% interest for 4 years? Same formula. I equals PRT. I is what we're finding. Our principal investment is $5,000. Our interest rate is 3.75, or when we divide it by 100, decimal 0.375, and the term is 4 years. Plugging in the formula, I equals PRT. I equals 5,000 times the decimal value, 3.375 times 4. I equals 5,000 times 0.15. So if the interest rate is higher and terms longer, we're now getting $750 on our investment. Calculating the last section, A equals P over I, P plus I. A is what we're trying to find. P is 5,000. Interest that we calculate we're going to make is $750. You add those two together, so it's 5,000 plus 750. A equals $5,750. So at the end of this, after a 4-year term with an interest rate of 3.75%, my $5,000 is now going to be worth $5,750. Okay, or $5,750. That's kind of how you calculate this one. I'll show you one more time where I'm actually working it through. But the simple interest with a term, this is basically how it's done.